Bitcoins have been around for a while. Let's see what we have learned so far. This is not an introduction to Bitcoins. If you are new to Bitcoins, check bitcoin.org. This presentation will instead focus on the little failures and the huge successes of the Bitcoin history so far. That is, April 2014. The history of Bitcoins is not long. The underlying principle was first described in 2009 and implemented in 2010. Bitcoins spread first between a small community of enthusiasts, but since 2012 Bitcoins started to gain popularity at a very high rate. Not surprisingly, the Bitcoin exchange rate against dollar followed a similar pattern, but with more ups and downs. Particularly since in 2013 Bitcoins started to be an object for financial speculation. Let's see now some of the myths that surround Bitcoins. The first one is that Bitcoins are used to purchase drugs and weapons. Given that Bitcoins did not exist until 2010, you should ask yourself, how did people pay for weapons and drugs before 2010? The answer is that any currency can be used for any kind of trade, inclusive weapons and drugs. This is as true for Bitcoins as much as it is true for euros, dollars, and any other currency. Another myth is that being a virtual currency, Bitcoins are nothing but bytes. Well, this is true for any other currency that is not bound to any physical resource, meaning that a Bitcoin is as virtual as a dollar and a euro. The main difference is that while dollars and euros are emitted by a central bank, Bitcoins are generated by an algorithm. But the existence of a Bitcoin is as real, and as arbitrary, as the existence of a dollar.
Before moving on, we need to have a brief look to the concepts of deflation and inflation. We are quite used to inflation. Inflation means that the purchase power of currency decreases over time, while deflation means that the purchase power of currency increases over time. Let's make an example. Let's say that I own an amount of a currency that today allows me to purchase 3 apples. In deflation, with the same amount of money for which I can purchase 3 apples today, I may be able to purchase 4 apples tomorrow. So unless I am in bad need for apples today, it would be wise to keep the money and wait until tomorrow before purchasing apples. While in inflation, with the same amount of money for which I can purchase 3 apples today, I may be able to purchase only 2 apples tomorrow. So keeping the money might be unwise. This influences the way we think about money and their value. If you think about it, there are few situations in which we experience deflation. For instance, the purchase of computers or smartphones. We know that a smartphone that costs $400 today will probably cost $300 in a year or so, after a newer model is introduced into the market. So the same $400 that we could spend today for a piece of hardware and software, in 1 year would allow us to purchase a better piece of hardware and software. The same amount of money, but higher purchase power. This is deflation.
Now let's look to another interesting property of Bitcoins. A property very much linked to deflation. Bitcoins are emitted at a specific rate which is decided by an algorithm and that can never be changed by anyone. So how many Bitcoins are ever going to exist? The emission rate of Bitcoins will drop continuously, and by 2040 there will be 21 million Bitcoins. Assuming that by then there will be 10 billion humans, which is probably a very low estimation. Then we see that the average availability of Bitcoins is about 0.0021 or 2 millibitcoins per person. This also means that if I own 21 Bitcoins today, this same amount of Bitcoins would correspond to 1/millionth of the global world wealth by 2040, under the assumption that Bitcoins would become the global currency.
This is linked to deflation, as the value and purchase power of Bitcoins are supposed to grow enormously over time, as less and less bitcoins are being emitted and introduced into the market, particularly in a scenario where bitcoins would become the established global currency.
So let's look now at what are the little failures, the problems that have emerged so far. The first one is the wallet problem. You need to store your bitcoins in one file, which is called the wallet, and each time you want to use your bitcoins, you need to access the wallet file. This is a major security issue. Many users, afraid of keeping their wallet locally on their computer, decided to transfer the wallet to some online Bitcoin service for storage. But as the value of Bitcoin suddenly skyrocketed in 2013, many of these online services became the target of criminal actions, causing lots of people to lose their Bitcoin wallet partially, or even completely. Then there is the deflation challenge. Knowing that the Bitcoins are most likely to rise in value, particularly in a scenario in which they are to be adopted as a global currency, people owning Bitcoins, they tend to just store them and not use them. So, even if nowadays there are millions of Bitcoins out there for a total market value that is currently equivalent to several $billion, people are not using their Bitcoins, knowing that what is worth about $300 today might be worth much more in future. However, as long as people do not use their Bitcoins, there are little chance for Bitcoins to get established as a global currency, which is a real dilemma for Bitcoin holders.
Let's now look to the huge successes that Bitcoin has enjoyed so far. The first one is the quick adoption rate. After only 4 years from the first implementation of the Bitcoin algorithm, Bitcoin is already a global phenomenon, not only among a tiny group of enthusiasts, but discussed and studied by financial institutions and governments worldwide. Even more important, maybe most important of all, Bitcoin has showed that it is possible to create an independent and self-regulated global financial platform based on peer-to-peer transactions. And the platform has proved to be very stable and reliable, even if criminal actions were committed inside this platform, as they are unfortunately committed within any other financial platform. Think about it. Bitcoins can be purchased and used for trading worldwide by any individual who has access to the internet. This happens outside the control of any government or financial institution, but under the very strict and rigorous control of any other computer running the Bitcoin software. And it only took 4 years, and a group of enthusiastic software programmers that made the software free and accessible to all, for this platform to establish itself globally.
So what will happen now? You might call Bitcoins, as we know it today, an experiment in establishing a peer-to-peer global financial platform. And from this point of view, there is no doubt that the Bitcoin experiment has been a huge success. But is an improved version of Bitcoin going to come? Maybe one that would solve the challenges with the wallet file and the deflation issue, caused by the fact that the number of Bitcoin is way too limited. We do not know the answer yet, but if there is one thing that we can learn from Bitcoin, is that digital currencies are here to stay. The way that Bitcoin has established itself as a global financial platform leaves no doubt that the future of finance and currency will have to deal with independent, peer-to-peer, digital currencies, one way or the other. Thanks for watching.